So the true divine is not out there. It's not a temple, a hierarchy, a savior cult, a sky god, any of those things. Hello. Today in my Gnostic Sects series, I'm going to talk about the Thomasines, sometimes called the Thomas Christians or Syrian Christians. They originated in the 1st or the 2nd century, and they revered the Apostle Thomas. Some scholars have associated them with proto-Gnostics, but they were a foundational community for the Syriac Christianity. Some modern critics have disputed their affiliation with Gnosticism, especially because they don't really embrace any of the pantheon or a lot of the beliefs that the Gnostics had, but there are many similarities, and you could maybe say that they're proto-Gnostic, but we can't really talk about them until we learn a little bit about Thomas. He's a complicated figure. He has a gospel, but not in the Bible. He also has many names. Thomas means twin, and here are some of his names. He also goes by Thomas the Apostle, one of the 12, Didymus Thomas, Didymus Judas Thomas, Doubting Thomas, and Thomas the Contender. Like I said, Thomas means twin, but Didymus also means twin. Here are some books he may have written. The most famous is the Gospel of Thomas. He was called Doubting Thomas because he initially doubted the resurrection of Jesus when he was told of it. This happened in the Gospel of John. He later confessed his faith on seeing the places where the wounds appeared, still fresh on the holy body of Jesus after the crucifixion. He was called the Contender because Jesus portrayed him as someone who struggles or contends spiritually against ignorance, the material world, and the desires of the flesh. Here are some books that he appears in or is referenced in. He's in all 4 of the Gospels in the Bible, the Acts of the Apostles, various other books. As you can see, he is in some of the Nag Hammadi texts. But of all of these, the most famous one is the Gospel of Thomas. This is a writing on the life of Jesus as an evangelion. This word literally means good news or glad tidings, but some scholars also call them logia, and I think this fits better. This word means a book of sayings or oracles. If you haven't read the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, I recommend it highly. It's an odd book. Young Jesus wields miraculous powers, bringing clay birds to life, striking or killing those who offend him, withering trees, controlling nature, and even resurrecting the victims of his wrath. It's quite bizarre, and it makes me wonder if there's some shenanigans going on here, because I don't understand why he would doubt the resurrection. In the Gnostic texts that have him, he doesn't seem like someone that doubts. After the stuff that he said in the Infancy Gospel, I don't know. It's not canon, so this could be one of the things the church fathers altered to change the narrative. I'm not sure. I do know that the apocryphal version of Thomas is way more Gnostic. The thing with Thomas, though, is that he had to head east. Early Christian tradition, especially in the Syriac church, said that the apostles drew lots to decide who would take which region. Thomas drew India, meaning the territories east of Palestine. According to traditional accounts of the St. Thomas Christians, Thomas traveled outside the Roman Empire, preaching the gospel. He traveled through southern India. It's said that he started the Church of the East, went even into Turkey, or what is modern day Turkey. After this, he headed further east. It's said that he established churches in Middle East, Southern Asia, Sri Lanka. There's an alleged visit to China and Indonesia. He really got around, considering there's no airplanes or anything. He is regarded as the patron saint of India by Christian adherents, but he was killed because of his missionary activity. Most accounts say he was stabbed with a spear. Some later traditions add that he was tortured beforehand, but the spear story is the most widely cited. According to the Syrian Christian tradition, it happened at St. Thomas Mount in Chennai in 72 AD, but his body was interned in Mylapore for some reason. Latin church tradition says December 21st is the date of his death, and it's reputed that his tomb is in Syria. He likely died in India, and the tomb in Syria was a later relic transfer claimed by the Edison Church. It's all very vague. My opinion is that he probably did make it to India. I'm not so sure about everywhere else. However, his disciples may have gone further east, and that's how that got established. The apocryphal Acts of Thomas also connects him to Syria. Scholars detect from the Greek that its original was written in Syriac, which places the Acts of Thomas in Edessa, likely authored before 240 AD. Before we get into their beliefs, I want to get a little more focused on the proto-Gnostic text, the Gospel of Thomas, sometimes called the Coptic Gospel of Thomas. This was found in Nag Hammadi in Egypt in 1945. I don't know, the fact that this was found with other Gnostic texts makes it very, very possible that they were Gnostics or at least proto-Gnostics. But this collection of sayings by Jesus, it's almost like a book of Zen koans, sometimes standalone, sometimes embedded in short dialogues or parables. It actually reminds me a little bit of the Tao Te Ching. The introduction states, "These are the hidden words that the living Jesus spoke, and Didymus Judas Thomas wrote them down." Here are a few sayings to give you the gist of what this sect may have believed. Entry 28. Jesus said, "I took my stand in the midst of the world, and in flesh I appeared to them. I found them all drunk, and I did not find any of them thirsty. My soul ached for the children of humanity, because they are blind in their hearts and do not see. For they came into the world empty, and they also seek to depart from the world empty. But meanwhile they are drunk. When they shake off their wine, then they will change their ways." I see this every day. Not so much has changed in 2,000 years, I think. But the thing to note is I think all of these sayings have multiple interpretations. Drunk here may not refer to wine. Drunk on the material world, perhaps. Drunk on their own hubris. Entry 70. Jesus said, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you. If you do not have that within you, what you do not have within you will kill you." This one sounds very Gnostic. Your inner spiritual knowledge or awareness is life-saving. Ignoring it is fatal in a spiritual sense. The source of salvation isn't external. But here's one more. Number 77. Jesus said, "I am the light that is over all things. I am all. From me all came forth, and to me all attained. Split a piece of wood, I am there. Lift up the stone, and you will find me there." So the true divine is not out there. It's not a temple, a hierarchy, a savior cult, a sky god, any of those things. Split wood, lift a stone. These are the lowliest, most mundane acts. Very simple acts. A plank of wood, a rock in the dirt, same nature as Buddha nature. It permeates everything because everything emanates from that same light. Look directly at what's in front of you. Don't chase enlightenment like it's somewhere else, because it's not. This is very, very Buddha-like. Anyway, there are 114 of these. I definitely think it's worth reading if you haven't yet. I think you should check it out. Their beliefs. Thomasines likely had a form of baptism. In Thomasine belief, Jesus was referred to as the light who ascended to the place of light, and Thomasines identified themselves as children of light. Those not part of the elect community were considered sons of darkness. They also believed in predestination. The Gospel of Thomas says to keep the Sabbath to be saved, but this could be a metaphor for inner rest. They probably also held semi-aesthetic beliefs. The pursuit of light is associated with the journey that culminates in rest or peace, and they say that following Jesus is a monumental choice. Judgment is ongoing in the material world. They thought that the universe may conclude at any moment. That's why it's so important to get right with it. Gnostic or something else. Like I said, many scholars link the Gospel of Thomas to Gnosticism, but contemporary research has questioned this. There seems to be a bit of a battle here. Many scholars say it's Gnostic, others dispute it. The ones that dispute it say that it doesn't align with the Gnostic mythology described by Irenaeus, who was their enemy. They've also said that the form of mysticism in it lacks several elements typically associated with the outlook. The text suggests that living a physical life is important, which seems to go against common Gnostic beliefs. I don't know if I agree with this though, because everything is a duality. So yes, you're trying to have this spiritual transcendence, but you're also in this body. I'm not saying you should abuse it or live entirely in it. However, it is the vehicle to reach the destination. And it is part of the equation, I think. I personally think that they are Gnostic. And here's why. They have emphasis on hidden knowledge, gnosis. They have revealed mysteries. There's an esoteric dimension. They have the dualistic worldview. Jesus is a guide rather than a redeemer. And the Gospel of Thomas was found with other Gnostic texts. That's a big reason right there. Legacy. Like other Gnostic sects, they were labeled heretical. And in the end, only 4 major texts survived. It shows that they were wiped out like the others. If they were Christians, Orthodox, then they probably wouldn't have been wiped out. They would have been assimilated. I'm not going to say too much about how this influences later groups, but here's a bit of a layout to help you get a handle on their place in the timeline. They seem to be part of the main thread though, and you can comment below if there are others I missed. But the St. Thomas Christians in India are speculated to be a descendant group of the Thomasines, and then this group split into several other churches. Anyway, as someone who spent almost a third of their life in Asia, I find it kind of amazing that one man's influence is so large in other cultures. It's amazing that his acts could be so far reaching. So my next video in this series is going to be on the Manichaeans. That's going to be in January. If you have anything to say about the Thomasines, you can post that below. But that's all I got. Take care. Have a good day.